Harris Faulkner has a knack for keeping things professional, but she's endured serious personal loss like any human being and weathered serious societal tragedy like any journalist. The 2020 holiday season proved to be a difficult one for Harris Faulkner, as she lost her father, Bobby Harris, on Christmas Day. Her mother had previously passed away 4 years earlier. Faulkner posted a message on social media that said, "Always guiding me through his grace and strength, Dad will now do so from heaven, beside my mother. I am theirs, and they are mine forever." Faulkner actually chose to use her father's last name as her first name when she was young, and then later chose the surname Faulkner from a distant family member. Her father was a military veteran who was coincidentally born on Flag Day. Faulkner shared on Instagram that their patriotic family creed was, "Praise God, love America and all Americans, especially when we don't agree. Do all you can for those who can offer you nothing more than their company." She also paid her respects on X, formerly known as Twitter, by writing, "My dad has died. I shall remain silent for a bit, while our family's Christmas North Star takes his place in heaven." Harris Faulkner is a devout Christian, and her faith is the basis for her best-selling book, Faith Still Moves Mountains. But this faith of hers was seriously tested after her father passed away. As she admitted to the Christian Post, "I struggled mightily with my own faith journey during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when my dad passed away on Christmas morning in 2020. Faulkner attributed the pandemic lockdowns as significant factors that caused her to drift away from her beliefs. As she revealed, "I began to pray less and cry more in my loss. It was a ridiculous recipe for someone who was raised by parents who taught the opposite." But when Faulkner found an annotated Bible that belonged to her father while packing up his apartment, his own words on the page rekindled her faith. As she revealed, "It came complete with handwritten notations about scriptures that he loved. I began to read his interpretations and expressions of faith. This new connection with her late father helped her heal." As she explained, "The more I prayed and read his Bible notes, it felt like pieces in my life, however broken, were being knitted back together." On December 14, 2012, Faulkner stood in the parking lot of Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, as hearses began pulling into the area where she was about to go live. The mass shooting that occurred that morning killed 26 people, including 20 children. Faulkner chose to softly begin her reporting with a moment of silence. Her ability to know what to say and what not to say in the face of tragedy helped guide Faulkner and her audience through the difficult day. She and her colleagues discussed whether they would report on the number of deaths and the mental toll that it took on her. In a 2022 interview with the Washington Times, she revealed, "I have broken down on air, and Sandy Hook was hard. I think because I'm used to that feeling of kind of all eyes on me as I tell a story, I'm okay with people seeing the truth about me, as long as they know I'm going to tell them the truth." When Faulkner interviewed Donald Trump in 2020 for Fox News, the conversation turned to the Black Lives Matter protests that were sparked by the death of George Floyd. Faulkner made it clear to Trump that his response was different than how a person of color would react. As she put it, "When George Floyd called out on the last few breaths of his life for his mom, his black mother, he called my name, Mr. President. He called my name. I'm mom first."
There was no getting around that the questioner looked a lot like the protesters in the street.
Correcting Donald Trump is no simple task, but for Faulkner, it was less about being combative and more about being human. As she explained to Forbes, "Sometimes it calls for the humanity and the humanness of the moment to come forward. You don't have to interject and be bold with opinion or whatever, but you do need to let people see who you are." Faulkner ultimately looked back on the moment with pride, as she admitted, "This is why I said what I said. We got a better interview because we both came at it from different perspectives." During a 2017 episode of Outnumbered, Faulkner managed to weather her co-host Melissa Francis's emotions when a conversation about race became a little too contentious. Faulkner and Juan Williams were the only people of color on the panel. Faulkner listened as her co-host debated whether or not Donald Trump said there were very good people among a group of neo-Nazi protesters at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. As Francis defended Trump's assertions, she began to cry and insisted, "I am so uncomfortable having this conversation."
I know what's in my heart, and I know that I don't think anyone is different, better, or worse based on the color of their skin.
Despite the dire circumstances surrounding the need to talk about race-related issues, Faulkner's hosting instincts were quick to kick in before the situation could get even more awkward. She offered the perfect segue as she said,
"You know, Melissa, there have been a lot of tears on our network and across the country and around the world."
Faulkner then managed to hold Francis accountable by closing with a gentle but obvious piece of truth.
"This is not 1950. We can do this. We can have this conversation. Oh, yes, we can. And it's okay if we cry having it."